Hi everybody, Coach Sabin with Return to Fit. This is Fitness Tip Tuesday, and this is our fourth part of our four-part series on real core training. Today, we're going to talk about two truths. I'm not going to recap the last 3 weeks. I made the last video way too long, but we talk about the two truths, not the two truths, but two truths about real core training that I feel will help close out this process. So, truth number one is that core training goes beyond the rectus abdominis, beyond the obliques, and beyond the transversus abdominis. If you do remember in week 1, or if you haven't seen it and you can go back and look, we talked about how people think core training, they think abs, rectus abdominis, and that's what they train. And then I introduced those 3 core muscles, which are the still primary muscles of the core. But when you are training your core, there are, almost 30 some muscles that you have to take into account. And so it changes the way we look at core training. It moves us even further from isolation exercises into more dynamic combination type exercises. So that's important. The muscles in your core, they start from, in my opinion, below your chest. They work down into your thighs, your hips, and then the back side from your glutes all the way up to the top of your back. All of the muscles that you could possibly come across, and all the way around. It's those are your core muscles, and those are the muscles that support all the transfer of motion, all the transfer of energy, force. Those are the ones that stabilize and all your movement. So all movement depends on the core. And that leads us into our next truth, which is all training is core training. If all movement depends on the core, then all movement taxes the core. This is good and bad because, to start with the good, the core is constantly being trained functionally throughout all your training. This means that when you go to do pull-ups, your core is engaging in a way that's functional and supportive of the pull-up. You go to do squats or deadlifts, the core is engaging in a way that's functional to the squat and deadlift. And as your squat and deadlift gets better and you lift heavier weights, your core is taxed more and you require more from it, and so it's being trained functionally. On the flip side of that, it means, and this one's more neutral, but if you have bad posture and bad form, you're at even greater risk. And if you have good posture and good form, you're getting even more benefit. The bad side comes from you're now more likely to overtrain your core if you're not programming smartly. The last week we talked about training your core, programming your core training for results. And so that template is still valid with this new information that I'm introducing you. But I talked about how you don't want to train all 3 primary functions of the core at once. That's because you are, every time you training at all 3. And that's, it's good and it's functional. But if you're somebody who's really working the core hard and you're hitting all three multiple movements from static to dynamic and all that other good stuff, and then you're also, hitting the bench press heavy, hitting the deadlift heavy, cleaning or squatting or any of that stuff that comes with training, it's all good stuff, but now you're putting yourself at risk for greater injury. So if you exhaust your core completely in the beginning of your training session, you're calling on an exhausted core to support yourself during those deadlifts, during those power cleans. If you do it in reverse and you put your core training at the end, and the core training is super important and you want to do it at 100%. You're trying to put yourself into these exercises like a plank or the ab wheel rollout or so many different exercises. We've talked about quite a few of them with a tired core, and you're increasing your risk of injury. So the only way to smartly do this is to look at what exercises you're doing in the rest of your training and look at what you need to do for your core training and split that up throughout the week. So that's the two truths. So the first exercise I'm going to show you today is the Turkish Get Up. This is my favorite exercise, and I was first introduced to it when I was working out at Grand Haven High School. The wrestling coach, James Richardson, came up and I was trying to figure out what a Turkish Get Up was. And so they explained it to me, and he's like, it's just like a wrestling match. You're in a struggle the entire time you're doing it. And you truly are. It's one of the most total body core training exercises you can do. And it tells a lot. Your ability to do this well tells a lot about your overall fitness level and your overall just physical health, in addition to core power. So I'm going to use a kettlebell. I only have a 5-pound here at home, but you can use without a kettlebell. When we do the screening for my program, we have just a body weight get up. We keep the arm in the air still. But getting started, you're going to start on your back, arm pointed to the ceiling. I like to grip up tight in that corner of the kettlebell so that my wrist is resting above the ball. And I'm going to bring one leg up. I'm going to extend my arm forward towards the ceiling, drive my elbow and hand into the ground on the opposite side, and keeping up to here. From here, I'm going to lift my body, supporting it with my foot and my hand that's posted on the ground, bringing my knee underneath, keeping that hand to the ceiling, and standing all the way up. From there, I'm going to return back, knee down, hand down. This next core exercise is just a hanging leg lift or knee raise. So it's important when you do this that you are supporting your weight here. So I'm not going to just hang on my shoulders like that. What I'm going to do is I'm bracing my core, trying to stop myself from swinging. I'm pulling a little bit to protect those shoulders, making sure my muscles there are engaged. And then I'm going to lift my knee. When I go past 90, I turn back down. I don't want to swing, overcompensate, back arch. I want controlled movement. Like I said, you can also do a leg raise. or leg lift. So these last two exercises, I'm using a technique which we call offloading, in which you're loading weight on one side. The first one is just an offloaded lunge. Again, this is a dynamic combination exercise. The lunge, obviously a lower body exercise, quad dominant. But what is training your core here is that offloaded weight, and you're resisting bending to that side. So I keep a weight at my shoulder. I'm bracing my core. My shoulder blades are going to be pulled back, standing tall. I'm not going to be shrugging this weight or letting it droop down. Pulled back and tall, core braced. Alternating legs here. And now typically in the gym where I have access to heavier weights, I wouldn't be using just a 5-pound kettlebell. Something that really gets me struggling, 30, 40 pounds. It's not a high rep exercise for your lower body. It's just training movement. The other one is offloaded farmer's carries. Same technique here. Bracing my core, shoulders pulled back. You're carrying ideally something heavier than 5 pounds, and you walk for distance. And right now this is nothing. I actually feel ridiculous. 5 pounds. Shoulders pulled back. You're resisting the you're resisting the weight. So you're supporting your core. It's actually a pretty good conditioning exercise too. Now, offloading doesn't necessarily mean you can only load one side. You can load both sides, but load more weight on another side. So I might do 50 pounds in one arm and 35 pounds in another arm for my farmer's carries. It all depends. So